So, if you did not know, there are only two state races for governor this year. One is in the state of New Jersey and the other in Virginia. And in Virginia, there is the potential that America can see its first Black woman governor, and that of Winsome Earle Sears. And so let's talk about it. My name is Monica. Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Holy Politician podcast. So typically, gubernatorial elections happen during election years, so either in the midterms or in the general election. And that's usually on even numbered years, right? So this year it's 2025. One wouldn't expect that we would have a governor's race this year, but we do. So there are these rare cases where a state's constitution requires that a new governor is elected, and it's typically in odd years. But the vast majority of states won't have gubernatorial elections until next year in 2026. These are states like Florida, where I live, California, where I grew up, Georgia, Alabama, South Dakota, Maryland, Massachusetts, and 28 other states, as well as three territories. Well, this year, in the odd case of the state of, or the Commonwealth of Virginia, we could see history being made with the election of America's first Black woman governor. Many of you recall when Stacey Abrams ran in Georgia against the current governor, Brian Kemp. And although she lost the race for governor, she made history as the first Black woman to win a major party nomination for U.S. governor. Now, Abrams is a Democrat, and Winsome Earle Sears, the one running for governor in the state of the Commonwealth of Virginia, is a Republican. And so this year, that's historic because she is a Black Republican woman, which is still in 2025, it's an anomaly to say a Black Republican woman, but she's running for governor of a major party ticket in the Commonwealth of Virginia. She's already won the party's nomination. And so there's only a handful of Black women who have ever run in a gubernatorial statewide or a primary contest, that period, but also as a Republican. So this is a very big deal. And from what I've learned about Winsome Earle Sears is she is a wholesome candidate. And whether you identify as Republican or Democrat, you should seriously consider her as governor. She is a candidate that cares about truth, which is what we talk about this podcast on this podcast. She is a candidate that cares about holiness, and her story I find to be very compelling. Watch this clip.
Winsome Earle Sears.
Winsome Earle Sears not only became Virginia's lieutenant governor in 2021, she became the first woman of color and first immigrant to reach statewide office in Virginia history. Born in Jamaica, she came to the U.S. at age 6 and joined the Marines right after high school. In her new memoir, How Sweet It Is, Earle Sears recounts how she came to know the Lord as a young mom and how he's seen her through raising a family, starting a business, the death of her oldest daughter and granddaughters, and the roller coaster life of politics. As a Regent University grad and emerging conservative, she first felt God calling her to run for office in 2001. She entered the Virginia House of Delegates after defeating a longtime incumbent. Next, she also felt the call to run for Congress and campaign as a write-in candidate for Senate, two races she did not win.
I believe any time that you obey the Lord, you always win, no matter the outcome.
In 2021, she rebounded as the underdog in Virginia's lieutenant governor race. A former State Board of Education member, she seized on parental concerns about schools as her primary issue. Her momentum and eventual victory helped to create a red wave in Virginia.
She seems wholesome, does she not? I mean, I really think that Winsome is a phenomenal candidate. And if I lived in Virginia, like I used to, I would cast my vote for her. She is not a woman that puts on airs or flaunts her knowledge or her ability or her intellect or her personality, or she doesn't really flaunt anything. you can tell that she just truly wants to do what's good for Americans. She's not salacious, right? Even watching her campaign videos and clips, she obviously has to show the opposite party's flaws, but I haven't seen anything that's incredibly demeaning or salacious or shameful. And personally, I hope it stays that way. I know that sometimes in campaigns, when things get very heated and you come up to the wire, sometimes people flip the script. But so far, she's been very just normal, right? She loves the Lord. She stands for godly values. And that really just showcases what we would like to see and need to see in our nation, which is a deeper focus on morality. She has a devoted husband of nearly 4 decades, right? That's a big deal. She has consistency in her marriage. She's against abortion, yet she cares about helping mothers get the support that they need to raise their children, right? She thinks that people should have civil unions if they want them, but she does not support gay marriage for the reasons that I'm sure many Christians that are conservatives likely may not support gay marriage. And an interesting thing about her is she once led a men's prisons ministry, and she talks about that with pride if you look in her bio. In addition, she was once the director of a women's homeless shelter. And so there are lots of regular American, normal, quality, good things to like about Winsome Earle Sears, right? She's also a Jamaican American, which personally, I love that, right? Because my husband is Jamaican American. So shout out to all the yachties. She also understands the power of legacy and how what we do today will affect our children today and will affect our children's children tomorrow. So I'd encourage you, if you live in the Commonwealth, to give her a look, right? And as a side note, my husband and I had the good fortune of meeting Winsome and her husband Terrence just one night randomly. We saw them at the Cheesecake Factory in Northern Virginia, and we spoke briefly to them both and just thanked them for their service to the country, both because she served in the Marines, but also she served in the Virginia State Legislature at the time. And my husband and I paid for their dinner, and we just both sensed that they were people that truly just cared about other human beings and that they were godly people and that they didn't fundamentally really care about labels as Democrats or Republicans, that they truly just want God's will to be done on earth as it is in heaven, which as Christians, that's what we should all want, right? Winsome just happens to be Black, just like I happen to be Black. But those things shouldn't label us. Those things shouldn't define who we are, our identity. Those things, obviously, they give us some sense of agency and humanity and knowing and recognizing, as Winsome Earle Sears does, that these things historically have hurt a certain group of people, right? But at the end of the day, she cares about God's will being done. And so all of us, we've got to start looking at the heart of a man and stop looking at labels, stop listening to our flesh and our feelings, and just look at the heart. Like Samuel was instructed to do by God when he went looking for the next king. God said basically to look at the heart. But Samuel was looking at David's brothers who seemed to be of greater stature and were more handsome. But God told Samuel in 1 Samuel 16:7, the Lord said to Samuel, do not look at his appearance or at his physical stature, because I have refused him. For the Lord does not see as man sees. For man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. With that, I'll end with this clip. Thank you for watching.
I mean, here I am as the lieutenant governor, a female, an immigrant, a Black woman, second in command in the former capital of the Confederate States. So I'm able to say to our children and to others, you can't say that God hasn't blessed us with a change in America, because how else could I be here?
The Marine veteran is Virginia's first female lieutenant governor. Now she's trying to become the first woman to hold the state's highest office and score a rare back-to-back Republican gubernatorial win. And the Jamaican immigrant isn't shying away from President Donald Trump's policies, including his push for mass deportations.
The president was elected fully explaining what he was going to do. He didn't hide anything from anyone.
And while Trump is 0 for 3 in Virginia, the soon-to-be 61-year-old former state House delegate says she knows how to win a tough race in the Old Dominion.
I became the first Republican, black or white, to represent a majority-minority district since 1865. And I think once people start seeing more people like them, then, I'm not an anomaly anymore. So this is that famous picture.
Her father immigrated just 17 days before Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his famous "I Have a Dream" speech. Earle Sears knows her history, but she says Americans should look forward, not back.
It's not 1963. And we cannot live in the past. For the sake of our children, we have to move on. We just have to.